Hi, I'm Alyssa Nadworny, and this is NPR's Book of the Day. Cherry, the main character in best-selling author Rainbow Rowell's latest novel, Cherry Baby, is having a hard time. Her very public marriage is disintegrating into a very public divorce. And while her life falls apart, her husband's star is on the rise. He's getting a ton of notoriety from his comic strip, which just happens to feature a wide-hipped, double-chinned character named Baby, who fans continually conflate with Cherry. Rainbow Rowell talked with Here and Now host Deborah Becker about the book.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Wayfair. Whether your vibe is modern, coastal, farmhouse, or eclectic, Wayfair has options to help you create an outdoor space that's uniquely yours. Wayfair makes it simple to narrow down to what works for your style and budget. Get prepped for patio season for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. This message comes from Prolon. Want to look and feel your best this spring? Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet is a clinically developed nutrition program with the goal of promoting fat loss while protecting lean body mass. Developed at USC's Longevity Institute, it aims to assist the body in entering a fasting-like state that helps reset metabolism, target visceral fat, and support healthy metabolic markers. Get 15% off plus a bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/NPR.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Carvana, making buying a car 100% online with real, transparent pricing and customizable financing that fits your budget. Browse thousands of cars and get yours delivered. Visit Carvana.com today. Delivery fees and terms may apply.
Author Rainbow Rowell has pushed a lot of boundaries in the writing world. Though she might be best known for young adult books like the best-selling Eleanor and Park, she also writes adult fiction, short stories, and comics. Her latest book, Cherry Baby, is an adult novel, but it takes up issues of identity, marriage, body image, and the weight loss drugs known as GLP-1s. The novel's out this week, and Rainbow Rowell joins us to talk about it. Welcome to Here and Now.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So right at the beginning, we learn that your main character, Cherry, is fat. I mean, that's how she defines herself. She calls herself beautiful and fat. And although Cherry says she is beautiful, she takes pride in her appearance, she's always ruminating about her weight. Why is that something that you wanted readers to understand right from the start?
Well, I think that she is just always thinking about how people around her are reacting to her body and knowing that her body is not the ideal. She also works in marketing and PR, so it's almost like she's thinking about how she has to spin herself as she moves through life, how she can present herself in the best way, but also always feeling people's judgment of her and knowing that people are evaluating her and that she's not measuring up the way that the world wants her to.
Right. And she's really defiant. And you outline this in one of the short chapters in the book. And I'm wondering if you could read a little bit of that for us, because I really think it sort of shows her spirit here.
Sure. This is chapter 40. When Cherry was a girl, when she was 8, when she was 12, when she was 16, she figured that she'd lose weight someday, that she would reach some point and there would be a transformation. That was the story arc of every fat girl in fiction, of every good girl who was ever overlooked. There was before and after. At some point you changed, you blossomed or tightened into a bud. You assumed your true form. Cherry believed in herself, and she believed in hard work, and she really believed that someday she would flip a switch and she'd master her weight. She'd put it behind her. Her face and body would sharpen into focus, and she would step into her after. She came to her senses earlier than most women. The evidence around her was stark, and Cherry wasn't prone to magical thinking. There was no after. No switch, no amount of hard work or self-control or even self-abuse that would change her. This was her true form. This was the body that would carry her through the world. This was her only vehicle for pleasure. Cherry refused to dream skinny dreams for anyone.
Yeah. Very nice. So she was defiant. She was going to make sure that her spirit was clear regardless of what societal ideals might be.
I don't know if it's defiance so much as it's making peace. She doesn't have much choice. Speaking as a fat person, for most of my life, I felt like, this is the body that I have. And so I think Cherry in the book just decides she can make peace and live a full life in the body that she has. But that means kind of giving up the dream of being skinny.
The other thing that we quickly learn about Cherry is that her estranged husband, Tom, who writes this web comic series Thursday, has a character in it based on Cherry called Baby. Now, these comics
That's
become
right.
wildly successful, and fans start recognizing her as Baby, something she doesn't care for.
Well, and he's drawn her as she is. So he has drawn this character, which is based on their life, to look like Cherry. And Cherry is a fat woman, so it's a fat character. And for her, it feels like she's the brunt of a joke, like he's parodying her or doing a caricature of her. She keeps thinking, couldn't he have drawn me with like no double chin, or couldn't he have, made my hips smaller? So she's walking through the world and people are recognizing her, and she's got all of this fame. And it's not fame that she has any control over. It's not even her success, it's her husband's. So it's taken this feeling like, okay, I'm a fat person, everyone sees me as fat, and it's leveled it up into, and also I get recognized and I'm famous, and maybe I'm famous for being fat.
Yeah. And then to make things even worse, the comic Thursday becomes a movie. And
That's right.
the trailer comes out, and Cherry says it made her feel like a cartoon.
Right.
What did you want to show by having her confront that sort of publicity and fame, really, about herself?
We're at a time where everything that we understood about our weight and our bodies has been changed by GLP-1s. If you're a fat person and you've been struggling with your weight or making peace with your weight for your whole life, you largely didn't have a choice. There may be a few variables you can control, but you didn't have the choice that you have now. Now these drugs have really changed everything. So one of the reasons I wanted to write this book wasn't to write about the drugs necessarily, but to write about a person just living a life where all of the rules have changed and where the landscape has changed. So they're making this comic into a movie, and they have to cast an actress to play Cherry, basically. And all of the actresses in Hollywood who could have played this part have lost weight on Ozempic. And so they end up casting someone and making her wear padding. So Cherry has to see herself on screen and think, they couldn't even find someone in Hollywood who was fat enough to play me.
Mm-hmm. So wouldn't Cherry consider GLP-1s to be the after?
Yeah, I think she is considering it. I think it's just happening so fast for her. So she's talking about watching other fat people in her life or overweight people in her life change. And I think it's in her consideration set. But to be honest, it's like not her biggest problem. She's going through a divorce. She's losing her husband. Her weight and her body are a part of what's happening for her, but it's not the main thing for her. And so we're watching her go through this relationship change.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because the success, the movie, the comic strip, that leads to Cherry and her husband separating. And she starts actually dating, but she keeps having these doubts, right? She can't seem to accept that men would choose her. What do you think that story, navigating relationships and intimacy, what are you trying to say there through Cherry's story?
I think with Cherry, partially because of the way she sees herself, the way she sees her weight, but also because of other factors in her life, and her parents and her family, she does have a hard time believing in a happy marriage or a happy relationship. And I also think that fame has been very destabilizing for Cherry. She married one person, right? She married Tom, the graphic designer who had never really dated before and was very quiet. And now she's married to Tom, the internationally best-selling graphic novelist who is very wealthy and, in demand, who people on the internet have a crush on. And it's hard for her to believe that this person is still going to want to be married to her. He has the whole world on a plate now. Why would he want to still be married to her?
Do you see her as a role model?
Oh, gosh, no, I don't see any of these characters as role models. No. What I'm always trying to do is just write something real. I've often written about plus-size characters. Usually their weight is more in the background. It's just a fact about them. But something I noticed was that people would notice and make that the headline sometimes if they were talking about a book. My book, Eleanor in Park, has a plus-size teenager, and people would often talk about that book being about a fat girl. And I would think, oh, I don't think the fact that she's fat is the top of the story here. So with this book, I thought, okay, well, what would happen if I did make fatness and weight and body issues more tied into the plot? What if it was more of the story?
Mm-hmm. And I just wonder, you've obviously thought about this a lot and now written about this in a novel, but do you think that GLP-1s have made it more difficult for people who are struggling to accept their weight? And we should say that they don't work for everybody, right? There are a lot of things that go on there. Do you think it's changed things for people who are struggling with their weight or trying to accept their weight, I guess?
Well, I think that the drugs have had a huge positive effect for a lot of people, right? But I think if you are not on the drugs, you can't afford them, you're choosing not to, or maybe you tried them and they didn't work for you, there is this feeling that the whole world is changing around you and that what it means to be fat is changing. You're seeing the fat people disappear. If there are no more fat people on television and maybe there are no more fat doctors or no more fat people sitting in first class, you're just seeing that everyone who can change is changing. And that makes you feel like maybe it's going to be less okay. Maybe people are going to be even more judgmental of you if you're still fat. It almost is this feeling of like, fat people are going extinct, but not me. Here I am. I still look this way. It does feel less safe. It feels upsetting.
Yeah. Best-selling author Rainbow Rowell. Her new novel is Cherry Baby. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And just a quick reminder that signing up for Book of the Day Plus is a great way to support NPR's book coverage and public media. And you'll get to listen to every episode sponsor-free. So please go find out more at plus.npr.org/Book of the Day.
This message comes from Jerry. Are you tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/NPR today.
Each story you hear on Planet Money starts with a question. What happens if we refund tariffs? Why are groceries so expensive? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious because the forces shaping our world can be hard to see. Follow NPR's Planet Money wherever you get your podcasts and start seeing how the economy really works.
This message comes from Squarespace. Squarespace provides an all-in-one platform to grow your business and get paid, offering tools to build a beautifully designed website or online store that highlights your brand and engages customers. Visit squarespace.com/NPR to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.